Well, all right, everybody. How are you? And thanks for joining me today. Are you guys able to hear me and see me okay? If you can, just give me a thumbs up just so I know we're all on the same page. Can you guys hear me okay? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay, thanks, Steven. Thanks, Steven. Thanks, Francesca. So I am so glad you guys are here today. We are going to start right on time as we do every single week. We're going to talk about something that's so very important, something I hear from leaders all the time. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Harry Caritas. I'm actually an emergency physician. I've been doing this for just about 20 years now, if you can believe it, but I'm also an executive communication coach, my friends. And for the next 45 minutes, we're going to be diving into something I hear from leaders, especially new leaders, all the time. And it's one thing that prompted me to have this LinkedIn Live because I hear things from clients that say, well, here I've got insights, I've got ideas, I've got opinions. But when I present them to the executive team or I present them to my colleagues, that I feel that it's dismissed. I feel that my opinions are dismissed. I'm the newest person at the table and it shows. And let me get my screen where we need to be here. Yeah. Here we go. And what we're covering today is just that. We're going to talk about 3 ways to stand out and to speak up. Are you guys able to see my screen at all?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let me see if I can make it come up. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, wow, that's not exactly, that's backwards for you guys, I think, right? Let me see if I can flip it around. Hold on.
Now I can see 3 ways to stand out and speak up.
But is it backwards to you, Perry?
No, it's not backwards.
Oh, it's not backwards. Okay, very good. So I appreciate it. Thanks for that, Perry, because on my screen it looks backwards, but as long as you guys can see it right side up, I love that. Because my friends, what we're covering today is when your voice gets dismissed, even when you're saying the right things. We're going to talk about the credibility gap that new leaders face and why that when experience or why years at the organization or your tenure in an organization is not the answer. We're going to talk about the 3 specific shifts that can make you change the dynamic starting this week. So let's get into it, my friends, because here's why this matters. So again, you guys can see this right side up. I just want to make sure. Yes?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. So here's why this session matters today. If you're a new leader, and especially if you're leading a team, but you're the newest person on that team, or you're the newest voice in that executive room, you're in a race. And you're not in a race against other people, you're in a race against the clock. What I mean by that is every meeting where you sit quietly because you're not sure how your message is going to land, and every idea that you're holding back because you think, well, Harry, I need more data, or I need to wait for, I should wait a little bit longer so I can be here a little bit longer. Every moment you spend waiting until you are ready, you're losing ground. And your team is watching you. Your peers are watching you. Your bosses, they're forming opinions about you. They're asking themselves if you should even be at the table. These are the questions that they're asking themselves. And you might be thinking, well, but Harry, I'm the newest person in this room. I don't have the experience. I don't have the relationships yet. If I speak up now, if I speak up too much, then I'm going to be perceived as being overconfident or arrogant or out of place. And that's the trap. And that's exactly what we're dismantling today. So if you're ready, let's do this, because who is this session specifically for? Well, it's for those of us who are leading a team of 5 to, let's say, 50, and you're the newest person, you're the newest voice at that table, at the executive table. This meeting's for you if you have insights, you have opinions, you have ideas, but when you share them, they get overlooked or they get interrupted or will simply just not taken seriously. This meeting is for you, my friends, because here are the 3 frustrations that I hear from many of the clients that I work with. The first one is Well, my ideas simply get ignored. That you're at a meeting, you present an idea, and it's dismissed, it's interrupted. People are picking up their phone and scroll through their phones. But then a senior member of that team mentions the exact same idea, and it's looked at as, well, it's brilliant. Of course. Well, why not? Why wouldn't we do that? That's a very common frustration I hear from some of my newer leaders. Second frustration is the over-explaining. You over-explain yourself to prove that you belong. You add context, you cite sources, you try to show your work. And by you, in your mind, by showing the work, you are building credibility. But instead of building credibility, though, it makes you sound uncertain, right? The third frustration I hear commonly from many of my new leaders is the second guessing. It's they second guess every single word before they even say it. They rehearse in their minds constantly what they're going to say, and they're just waiting for that moment to say it out loud. But in all that time of rehearsing, all that time of waiting, that conversation's moved on. And you're sitting there like, oh, I had something important to say, but in all that time, you're second guessing yourself, rehearsing in your mind, the conversation's moved on and you've missed your opportunity. So can you guys understand that? You guys feel that? Oh, great, my friend, because here's the one of the biggest frustration that nobody really wants to say out loud. And it's the battle that I see with many of my clients. It's the internal struggle that they have. They feel that if I don't speak up soon and I don't make sense of what I'm going to say, then they'll decide that I don't belong here. But then if I do speak up and I say maybe I say something wrong, then it'll just prove to them, it'll confirm to them that I don't belong here. And that's an internal struggle many are stuck with. You're stuck, you're paralyzed between bad and bad. And the worst part is the longer you wait, the harder it gets. And that's what we're solving today. But here's the opportunity, my friends. There is an opportunity. What if instead that you're waiting for more time or more years under your belt or more experience? You could walk into a room, and even if you're the newest person there, and you speak with clarity, you speak with confidence, your shoulders are back, and it makes your senior leaders just lean in a little bit more. It perks up their ears, as we say, and not tune out. What if your newness, if that's the word, what if your fresh perspective or your lack of baggage actually becomes an asset, not a liability, right? That's what's possible. And that's what we're building today. And if that sounds like you, please give me a big thumbs up. And I really want you guys to try to be as interactive as you can with this one. I'll tell you why. Because the more I know where your challenges are, the more I can pivot my conversation to address it. So if I see more of you are struggling with this thing, I could spend a little bit more time on this thing, a little less time on this thing. So let's do a quick temperature check. Let's talk about your confidence level. Thanks for all the thumbs up, guys. I appreciate it. Let's do a quick temperature check. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you speaking up in a high stakes leadership meeting? Number 1 is you avoid it at all costs. You are quiet as a mouse. And number 10 is I own the room. This is my room. I am confident, I know what I'm doing. Type it in the number. Oh, good, very good. Okay, I'm seeing a pretty big extremes. Francesca with the 1 and Perry with the 10. How about the other guys? How about Darlene, Nicole? What do you guys think? Just put your number in the chat just so I can kind of guide our talk so it serves you guys most. This is what I'm here to do this for you guys. I'll give it another maybe 10, 15 seconds. What do you guys think? How confident are you speaking up in a high stakes room? Okay. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. I'll tell you why this matters. I'll tell you why this matters to me on a personal level. Years ago, for those of you who know me, and for those of you who may not know me, I'll give you a brief rundown. I used to be the medical director of my emergency department, and I was one of the youngest medical directors of our 19 hospital system. And in my own hospital, I was the youngest member of that executive team by 10, 15 years. I had the title, I had the team, I had a great team, actually. I had great physicians, great nurses, and actually had some great results. But when I walked into the medical executive committee meetings, I was surrounded by people who were much older than me. And I'd share an insight about a win that we had, about, let's say, about patient flow or some of the staffing wins that we've had. I'd watch their eyes just glaze over. Or I'd get a polite nod or polite thumbs up. Thanks for your input, kid. That was a one time I got thanks for your input, kid. And I'm sitting there, realize that the titles don't mean anything. As a physician, I was one of the most senior leaders in that hospital system, but I was the youngest one though. And I realized tenure wasn't the answer. It was my communication. So I had to make a shift. I stopped trying to prove I belonged with more data, with more context, with more graphs, with more explanations. Instead, I started positioning my ideas in a way that senior leaders couldn't ignore. I learned how to open strong. I learned how to signal confidence without overcompensating. How to frame my perspective and my fresh perspective, because I was the youngest one there, as a strategic advantage, not as a gap in experience. My youth wasn't a gap in experience. And really everything changed at that point. I started getting pulled into rooms that I would not have access to. I started getting pulled into bigger conversations, bigger projects. The regional chief medical officer and the regional chief executive officer knew me, and they were pulling me into their meetings. And even other colleagues, not only just younger leaders, but other older executives were coming to me, like asking me, oh, how'd you do that, Harry? How'd you get the CEO to do that thing that you wanted? And it just highlighted to me the importance of communication. That's how I coach now. That's what I coach now. And that's what we're covering today. The 3 specific ways you can make that same shift at your organization starting this week. So here is, though, my unhidden agenda. I want to provide you guys incredible value, and I do this with every single one of my LinkedIn lives. But today's session is not a full step-by-step training where you're going to walk away with every single tool that you're going to need to master executive communication. What the session is, it's designed to show you what's possible and to give you a clear framework to start with. And speaking of frameworks, again, if you came in late, scroll all the way up to the chats, and you're going to see I've made a workbook for you guys. It's the first message on the chat. Scroll all the way up and download it, print it. And if you're not going to have access to a printer, then I'll send you guys after this. But at the end, though, if what I share with you resonates with you, and you want help managing your personal plan to build credibility and to build influence faster, I'm going to invite you to book a one-on-one session with me, a strategy session with me. It's no pressure. It's no pitch. It's just an invitation. And if afterwards we decide to work together, well, that's great. But if not, that's fine. You at least walk away with one clear framework to talk about your team, your leadership gaps, your credibility gaps, and we're going to help build that custom plan for you. So if that makes sense for you, please give me a big thumbs up. If that's okay with you, just give me a big thumbs up to let me know that's okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Well, let's get to work. How about it? Right? So let's talk about the first way. The first way, my friends, is to shift from proving to positioning, to stop the over-explaining, to start framing for impact. You're going to hear that from me many times today. This is the shift that has changed everything. It's most new leaders think that their job is to prove that they belong, and to prove that they're smart, to prove that they've done their homework, to prove that they deserve that seat at the table. So what do they do? What do? They over-explain. They add context, they cite sources, they show their work. Their PowerPoint slides are so crammed with information, that they themselves can't even read their own PowerPoint slide, and they're sitting in front of the monitor, right? And what happens is they lose the room, right? When I'm in a meeting and I see a PowerPoint slide with text that is so small that even the person can't read it, they've lost me. They've lost me. So here's what you need to understand. Senior leaders don't need proof. They need positioning. So let me show you what I mean by that. The false belief that most leaders carry is if I explain myself thoroughly, if I show my research, if I walk them through my process, my thinking process, they're going to see me as being credible. But that's wrong, completely wrong. Credibility doesn't come from how much you explain. It comes from how you clearly frame the issue and how you present a solution. Here's a harsh reality. When you over-explain, when you walk somebody through your entire thought process, you don't sound thorough, you sound uncertain. And senior leaders interpret these long interpretations as a lack of confidence. The real issue here is most people think credibility is built through volume of information, but that's a symptom of insecurity. I know that's hard for some of you guys to hear, but it's a symptom of insecurity. The deeper block is knowing what to leave out. Is you have to be able to figure out what to leave out. And if you want to fix this, we need to start seeing ourselves as strategic framers rather than information providers. So let me give you an example. Pull out the worksheet. If you guys don't have it, that's okay. I'm going to walk us through it. Here's what a real life example looks like. I'm going to show you two different ways. I'm going to show you the before and I'm going to show you the after. In a proving mode, somebody may say, and again, listen to my words carefully. So I was looking at Q3 numbers and I noticed something interesting about our retention data. So I pulled reports from the past 18 months and I looked at that and I compared them to industry standards and I compared them to industry benchmarks. And what I found was, you see what's happening here? You're walking them through your thinking. You're walking them through your mind. You're walking and you're showing your work, and you haven't even shown me really what the problem is. For somebody who's listening to this message, I still have no idea what the problem is. But in a positioning framework, it's a stronger presentation. Imagine that same message being presented in a different way. Say, we have a retention problem. Here's the pattern. Here's how we're going to move forward to fix this. See how different that sounds? It sounds confident. It sounds like you've done the work. Now you're here just to present us the solution. You open the problem, you promise a pattern, and you promise the fix, and you're leading a conversation. You're not justifying your presence. You're there to get the work done. So here's the framework, and it's incredibly simple. When you need to position an idea, especially in a high-stakes meeting, you have to use this. You use this four-step process that has been so successful for me and so successful for my clients. The first thing is you name the problem. Name the problem, right? You say it out loud. One sentence, be direct. Don't get too bogged down in the weeds. Here's the problem. Don't need to explain it. Here's the problem. And then you have to share your insight. Share insight. So share your insight. What's the pattern or root cause that they're not seeing? One sentence. Number three, you preview the path, meaning you give them a glimpse of the solution without explaining the whole thing yet. Again, one sentence. Each of these is one sentence. And then the most crucial part is number four. You pause. Pause. Let them ask for more. Let them lean into you. So let me show you how this may work. Imagine you're at a leadership meeting and you want to bring up a staffing issue and it's affecting your team. So here's how I would position it. You'd say, we're losing mid-level talent faster than we're replacing them. Boom, problem. We're losing mid-level talent before faster than we're replacing them. So then we give them the insight. The pattern I'm seeing is that promotion timelines are unclear, and we're losing our high performers before we can even retain them, right? So problem, here's your insight, here's the pattern you've realized. I have a proposal that addresses this without adding headcount. So I preview the idea. I have a proposal that addresses this without adding headcount. Number 4, would you like me to walk you through it? Boom. Boom. You see how that works? You didn't over-explain it. You didn't justify it. You framed the issue and you invited them into a solution. That's positioning. One problem, direct, preview the problem without over-explaining it. And the most critical important step here is number 4, you pause and you invite them into that conversation. You guys get that? Yeah. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. We'll move on to number 2 now, guys, and it's to replace hesitation with strategic signals. Here's what most leaders don't realize, that the words you use before you share an idea matters more than the idea itself. I'm going to say this one more time. The words that you use before you share your idea matter more than the idea itself. Senior leaders are listening for confidence signals. And if they hear hesitation, even subtle tells, they'll tune you out before you even finish your sentence. And let me show you what I mean. Here's our second false belief. You may be saying, well, Harry, if I soften my language, if I'm humble, if I'm meek, remember, I'm the newest person here. If I say things such as, well, I might be wrong, but, or, well, here's just a thought, that you'll sound as you're thoughtful. You feel you're sounding collaborative. Nope, 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 wrong. Hesitation and qualifying something before you say it doesn't make you sound humble. It makes you sound unsure. It makes you sound insecure. And unsure leaders don't get listened to. Now, I'm not saying to be arrogant or dismissive, not even in the slightest. What I am saying, though, is you need to replace your hedging language with strategic framing language. The real issue here, my friends, is most people think that confidence means being loud or assertive. That is absolutely not the case. That's not it. Some of the best communicators and the best leaders are the ones who speak less and listen more. The deeper block is not knowing which words to remove and which words to add. So let me show you the most common confidence killers and what to say instead. So here's your second framework. Here are the phrases, my friends, that kills your credibility in a room very, very quickly. I call these confidence killers. You say things such as, well, I might be wrong. I might be wrong. ... Or, well, this is just a thought. This is just a thought. Also, ... You're hedging. Or one of my ones that when I always cringe at when I'm at a meeting is, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. So you're hedging. You're giving yourself an out. Every single word, every single phrase right here, my friends, signals doubt. And the problem there is that doubt is contagious. When you start with saying such as, well, I might be wrong, the other person's brain immediately thinks, well, yeah, you probably are, right? If you yourself who's presenting something starts off with, I might be wrong, in my mind, you already are wrong. Now, here are the strategic signals that you should use instead. So instead of saying, I might be wrong, start things with, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I am seeing, right? Or based on the data, based on the data. Or, oh, so much, a far more powerful one is, here's what I'd recommend, right? Notice the difference. You're not hedging. You are not apologizing. You are framing your perspective as data-driven and as strategic. So here, let me give you an example of a client that I work with. I'm going to call her, we'll call her Jamie. Jamie was a vice president, new vice president, leading a team of 30 people. And in her meeting, her first executive meeting, she wanted to change something. She wanted to change, propose a process change. And she was telling me about it. And she's like, I go, well, okay, well, tell me about it. But I told her, before you tell me about it, I want you to do it off the cuff. I don't want it scripted. I want you to do it off the cuff. I want to see how you're going to present it to me. And to start off with this is how it sounded like. Well, okay, I'm not sure if this is the right time, but I was thinking maybe we can try a different approach to onboarding. It's just an idea, so feel free to ignore. And I'm like, no. I had to stop her. I had to stop her. It was just confidence killers every single step of the way. So here's what we did instead. We kind of helped script it out for her. And she said something to the fact of, I'm seeing a pattern in onboarding, and that's cost us about 2 to 3 weeks with every new hire. Here's the shift I'd change for next quarter. You see, it's the same idea, right? We're still talking about onboarding, but it's a completely different signal. Her proposal got approved. Why? Because we made it an easy yes for people to decide on. That's one of the biggest goals that I have for my clients when they present something, to present something in a way that it's an easy yes, right? Because she sounded like someone who's already thought this through. Now she's just presenting that solution. She's not telling them about how she came up to that solution. She's not telling them her entire thought process. If people want to know about it, they'll ask, but that puts you in a stronger position, inviting that question to be asked. You got it? You guys get it? So when you're saying when you replace things like maybe we could as a confidence killer, replace that with I recommend. Replace just the thought with based on the data, right? These swaps are small, but they're powerful. I think makes it sound like an opinion, but whereas here's what I'm seeing sounds like an observation backed in reality. Maybe we could sounds tentative, but I recommend sounds decisive. You've planted your flag down. Here's what I recommend, right? Just a thought diminishes your idea even before you shared it, right? Based on the data, rounds the idea into something concrete. And here's a little bonus here. Let me put a little bonus here. Boom. A little bonus is you add urgency. Add urgency. I'll tell you what that means. So here's why this matters now. It's such a powerful statement. And if you guys are listening very, very carefully, I actually used that early on when I started our talk together. Here's why this matters now. Such a powerful statement. Here's why this matters now. Such a powerful statement, because when you explain why this matters now, you're not just sharing an idea, you're making a case for action. You're making a case for action, which is what I always want for you. Understand? All right, let's go to number 3. Own your point of view. Your fresh perspective, my friend, is an asset, and I want you to stop apologizing for it. This is where most leaders get stuck. They think, well, here, I haven't been here long enough. I haven't been here long enough to have a strong opinion. I haven't been here long enough. Who am I to challenge the way things are? Who am I to challenge the status quo? And they stay quiet. Or worse, they apologize for their perspective before they even share it. Here's the truth, my friends. Your fresh perspective is your greatest asset, not your liability. So let me show you how we're going to use it. Here's our third false belief. Leaders that I speak with many times, they'll who share this false belief is they say, well, I need to wait here because I've not been here that long. I need to wait here because until I've been here longer. I need to earn that right to have a point of view. I need to earn that right. And it's simply not true. Absolutely not true. Fresh eyes see what experienced eyes miss. I'm going to say that one more time. Fresh eyes see what experienced eyes miss. The people who've been in an organization for 10, 15, 20 years, they're operating on autopilot. They've accepted the way things work and they don't question things anymore. And you do. And you do. And that's valuable. The real issue here that most leaders think is that their lack of experience or their lack of tenure or their gap in credibility, that's not a block, my friend. That's not the block. The deeper issue is knowing how to frame your newness as an advantage, as a strategic advantage. And if you want to fix this, you need to stop apologizing, number one, for being new and start owning your outside perspective as a lens that adds value. Let me show you how one of my clients did this. We'll call him James. We'll call him James. James is a director of operations at a mid-sized hospital, and he was relatively new. 6 weeks into his role, he had come to me and he had noticed that there were some gaps, process gaps, in how they were handling their vendor contracts. Something that was really costing them time and money, and it just didn't seem to make sense for him. But he hesitated. He thought, well, I've only been here for 6 weeks. Everyone else has been here for so many years, and if this was really a problem, well, wouldn't they have fixed it already? And he almost said nothing. And here's what he actually said. And that's how he had come to me. He's like, I'm new here, so I may be missing something. But it seems there might be an issue with how we handle contracts. And he was apologizing. He was hedging. He was signaling doubt. So we worked on a better way. So in his next meeting, we said this. He's like, well, because I'm new here, I'm seeing a process with fresh eyes. And I noticed that there's a pattern that's costing us about 10 hours a week in redundant approvals. Here's what I recommend we test. Different, right? It sounds different. He framed his newness as an advantage, not as a disclaimer. And that happens all too many times, especially with new leaders. And this is what happens when you own your point of view instead of apologizing for it. Well, let's talk about the point of view framework. When you have a fresh perspective, especially one that challenges the status quo, maybe use one of these one openers, and you'll see the incredible powers that they have. Use the openers such as, because I'm new here. Because I'm new here. Not apologize for, because I'm new here. Because I'm new here. From an outside perspective. From an outside perspective. Here's what I'm seeing. They may not be obvious. Here's what I'm seeing. And the important thing is saying that may not be obvious from the inside. Here's what I'm seeing. They may not be obvious from the inside. And then share. Then share your insight. Then share it. Then share your insight with confidence. No hedging, no apologies. So let's talk about another one. Let's do another example. Let's say you're at a strategy meeting and you notice that your team keeps revisiting the same issue every quarter and they're not really making any progress. They're kicking the can down the road, as they say. An apologetic version may be, I'm still pretty new here, so I don't know if I'm reading this right, but it feels like maybe we keep circling back to the same problem, right? You're apologetic, you're giving you're hedging, you're apologizing because you're new. Wrong. if you own your point of view, you say, because I'm new here, I'm noticing a pattern. We discussed the same issue in 3 consecutive meetings without making a decision. From an outside perspective, it looks like we need to have a forcing function to move forward. Here's what I'd suggest. You see the shift? Again, the message is the same, but you're not apologizing for being new. You're leveraging it. You're leveraging. That's way number 3. That's way number 3. So my friends, here are the 3 things that we talked about. First one is positioning. Way number 1 is positioning. You shift from proving to positioning. You stop over explaining. You start framing for impact using my 4-part structure: problem, pattern, path, pause. And then we moved on to number 2, where you're replacing hesitation with strategic signals. You swap out the confidence killers for strategic language that makes you sound decisive and data-driven. And way number 3, where you own your point of view. You, even when you're new, you reframe this, your fresh perspective as an advantage, as a strategic advantage, not a liability. So what comes next? What comes next? You have the new frameworks, the 3 frameworks now in front of you, and you've got the workbooks. Again, it's all the way on top. If you go all the way up to the chat, you'll see the workbook that's for you. But even if you apply just one of these in your next high stakes meetings, you're going to see a difference. And here's the reality, my friends. Frameworks alone won't change your reality. Implementation will. And implementation is where most leaders get stuck. They have the insight, they see the path, but when they're actually in the room, when the pressure's on, when the senior leaders are watching, their default is to go back to old patterns. They go back to over-explaining. They're going back to apologizing. They go back to hedging. And that's when I want to offer you something different. Here's what I invite you. I invite you to a 30-minute one-on-one session for me. And here's what we're going to do on our call. First, we're going to map out your specific leadership context, what your role is, what your team size is, the dynamics you're trying to navigate, the gaps that you're seeing. And we're going to identify those. We're going to identify your biggest credibility gaps and the moment where your voice gets lost and the patterns that are holding you back. Then we're going to build a personalized action plan in your specific language. We're going to talk about frameworks. We're going to talk about specific scenarios so you know exactly what to say and how to say it. And here's what this is not. Here's what the strategy session is not. It is not a sales pitch. This is not me talking to you for 30 minutes. It's a strategy session. And if you decide to work more after that, great. But if not, though, you'll at least walk away with a clear plan, whether we ever work together again or not. Let me be specific about who this is for and who this is not for. Here's the QR code. And if you want to book in that 30-minute session, go ahead and book that session. It'll take you directly to my calendar. And actually, I'll give you my calendar link in the chat. If you guys don't have access to there. So my calendar link is in the chat as well. But who this is for, I want to be clear for who this call is for. If you're currently leading a team of 5 to 50 and you want to build credibility, you want to build influence faster than the current approach you're using, this wait and see approach. And this call is for those of you who are ready to implement, not to consume more information. And you actually want to do this, not just think about it. Or if you want a personalized plan, tailored to your needs, to your specific needs, not generic advice, then this call is for you. But this call is not for you if you're not in a leadership role yet. It's built for people who are already leading teams and navigating these high-stake rooms. This call is not for you if you want a magic fix. This requires practice. This requires feedback. This requires coaching, and this requires time. And if that's not you, this isn't the right fit. All right. But I do want you to imagine something, though. I do want you to imagine something. You know, you've listened to the session today, and imagine that 30 days from now, you walk into your meeting, a high stakes meeting, and and these are the meetings that you're maybe the newer member. You're second guessing yourself, but this time it's different. You walk in there with clarity. You walk in there with confidence. You're using one of the things that we talked about today. You open strong. You frame You frame the problem, you share your insight, and you preview the path for them. You own your point of view. You don't apologize for being you. You leverage your fresh perspective as a strategic advantage. And you know what happens? Well, you are looked at then. You're looked at as the leader that everybody wants you to be. You want to be. You lean in, the room leans in and listens to you. Senior leaders are asking you follow-up questions. Senior leaders are pulling you into meetings that you would not have access to. Your ideas stick. That's not fantasy, my friends. That's what happens when you stop proving and start positioning. And that's what we're building here together. So again, the link is in the chat, or you can use the QR code. Let's map your plan out. And let's see what time is it, 9:40 here my time. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Again, you can either put them in the chat. I can see them on this monitor over here, or you can come off of mute and ask your question. I'd love to hear from you. But I'll give us a couple minutes because I want to be respectful of your time on this beautiful Friday. It's Friday for us today here. Anybody have any questions? Drop your questions in the chat. Again, if you're ready to book your session, my friends, go ahead and book it and give me a thumbs up that you did, just so I can look out for you that you came through this booking through our LinkedIn Live. All right. Anybody have any questions before we log off?
So would these frameworks also work in the first meeting with the stakeholders?
Well, yeah. So again, it's a wonderful way to set yourself up, Perry, as somebody who comes into it with confidence that you have a solution to their problem. Again, you may not have all the answers at that first meeting, and I don't think you're expected to. But if you go into that first meeting with that confidence saying, here's the pattern I'm seeing, and here's what I would recommend, would you like me to share with you? You can see that difference where you're now inviting them into a conversation than you just putting your stuff on a PowerPoint, just click, 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 click. People will gloss over that. But if you make it into more of a conversation where you are leading it, I think you're going to be at a much more powerful position.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ellie, I saw your message here. You can book by clicking the link in the chat, just maybe two messages above you, or you can just scan the QR code and it'll take you to thank you, Ellie. I saw you. Good work. Thank you. I'll look for you. All right. Well, guys, it's been really, really wonderful. I love doing these, and I hope you enjoy them too. I hope you get value out of it. And for those of you who've booked, I look forward to meeting you. And I wish you guys a wonderful Friday, if it's Friday by you guys as well too. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.